Welcome to Creepypasta Night, a place where shadows come alive, and every story hides a secret. Here, we bring you the darkest tales of horror, mystery, and fear. Stories that whisper when the lights go out. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare, for the night begins now.
Deep within the dense forest, far from prying eyes, stands an old, forgotten house. They say it was built more than 100 years ago, yet no one ever lived there for long. Those who entered never came back the same. Some vanished without a trace, others lost their minds forever. This is not just an abandoned house. It is a place where walls swallow every whisper and restless souls remain trapped. Tonight, we will uncover its secrets.
Rain hammered the cracked pavement as Daniel and his two friends trudged along the deserted road. Their sneakers splashed through puddles, thunder rumbling above. At the edge of town, hidden by gnarled trees, stood the abandoned house, its broken windows staring like empty eyes. Every villager they passed had warned them never to go there, but curiosity burned brighter than caution. The gate leaned crooked, the iron rusted, and when Daniel pushed it, the sound was sharp enough to pierce through the storm. The front yard was a graveyard of silence. Weeds grew waist-high, swallowing the cracked stones of the path. The wind carried the faint smell of mold and rust. A broken swing dangled from a tree branch, creaking back and forth, though the air was still. The three exchanged nervous glances before stepping toward the porch, each step heavier than the last. The house seemed to lean forward, as if it were waiting for them. Daniel reached for the door handle. The metal was icy, colder than the storm around them. The door creaked open with a shrill moan, dust swirling into the air. Inside, the darkness swallowed the last rays of daylight. For a moment, all three hesitated, the threshold between safety and the unknown. Then Daniel stepped inside first. The others followed, though every instinct told them to turn back. The hallway stretched like a tunnel. Wallpaper peeled from the walls, exposing dark stains beneath. The floorboards whined under their weight. A broken mirror leaned against the wall, their reflections warped and twisted. Just as they passed it, the glass cracked further on its own, a jagged line spreading across the surface. No one spoke. The only sound was their shallow breathing and the storm muffled outside. A sudden crash echoed through the hall. A dusty picture frame had fallen from the wall, its glass shattering into countless shards. The portrait inside was of a family, faces blurred, eyes blackened as if burned away. Daniel's friend bent down to pick it up, but the floor beneath him groaned so loudly he froze. "Don't touch it," Daniel whispered. They backed away, but the feeling was clear. The house had noticed them. The staircase loomed ahead. The banister splintered and crooked. Each step screamed under their feet as they climbed. At the top, a hallway stretched into shadows. Doors lined both sides, most closed, one slightly ajar. From behind it came a faint scratching sound, like nails dragged across wood. The three froze, listening. Then the sound stopped. Complete silence, heavier than before. Daniel pushed the door open. Inside, the air was colder, suffocating. On the far wall, words were carved deep into the plaster. "Get out." The letters were uneven, claw-like, dripping faintly with something dark. His friend stepped closer, raising the flashlight. The walls seemed to breathe, the shadows moving ever so slightly. A whisper slithered across the room, faint, broken, impossible to trace. All three turned at once, but there was no one there. The whisper grew louder, splitting into several voices. The flashlight flickered violently, plunging them into darkness for seconds that felt like hours. When the light steadied, Daniel gasped. At the end of the hallway, a tall, thin silhouette stood motionless. Its eyes glowed faintly to hollow orbs burning in the black. He blinked, and it was gone. His friends clutched his arms, trembling. Then, without warning, the front door downstairs slammed shut with a deafening echo. Asterisk, a sudden scream pierced the silence. One of Daniel's friends collapsed, clutching his ears. "The voice is there in my head," he cried, writhing on the dusty floor. The whispers were no longer around them, they were inside them, scratching, clawing, filling their skulls with madness. From the darkness at the edge of the room, pale, skeletal hands began to emerge, dozens of them reaching, stretching, trying to grasp. Daniel pulled his friend desperately, his own mind ringing with the echo of the whispers. Asterisk, with one last effort, Daniel dragged his friend toward the back door. Lightning flashed, illuminating the garden beyond. The door burst open, and the three stumbled out into the rain, gasping for breath. The storm washed over them, but the terror clung like a second skin. Behind them, the house stood still, dark and silent, as if nothing had happened. Relief almost came until Daniel felt it, a cold breath against his ear, a whisper, softer than the rain. "Stay." His scream was lost to the storm.
I see you. I see you.
Weeks passed since the night the three friends disappeared. In the nearby town, people whispered about screams heard in the distance and strange lights flickering in the woods. A group of locals, driven by both fear and curiosity, decided to investigate the abandoned house. The forest seemed different this time, darker, heavier, as if it remembered. When they reached the clearing, the house stood waiting, windows like hollow eyes staring at them. The air grew thick, and every instinct screamed at them to leave. But they pushed forward. Inside, the air was colder than outside. Dust hung like fog, disturbed by their every step. While exploring, one of them noticed a locked door at the end of a hallway they hadn't seen before. It was covered in chains, old but strangely strong, and carved with the same symbols they'd seen scratched into the walls. Suddenly, they heard banging coming from the other side of the door. 3 knocks, slow, heavy, then silence. They leaned closer, hearts pounding. Then, through the door, a familiar voice whispered, "Help me, please, it's Daniel." One of them staggered back in shock. Daniel, the boy who vanished weeks earlier. But his voice didn't sound right. It was layered, distorted, as if more than one mouth was speaking at once. "Set me free. Open the door." The group froze. Something deep inside them knew it was Daniel anymore. Before they could decide what to do, the lights in their lanterns flickered violently. The walls around them shifted, stretching with dark, liquid-like shadows that crawled toward the floor. The sound of scratching filled the room, dozens of nails dragging across the wood. The air grew heavy, suffocating, and from the ceiling, black shapes began to drip, like ink forming into human silhouettes. The group screamed, stumbling backward as the shadows reached for them. They ran for the door, but the house no longer looked the same. Hallways stretched endlessly, twisting and turning back into themselves. Every exit vanished. Behind them, the chained door burst open with a deafening crack. Something crawled out, tall, twisted, its limbs too long, its head bent unnaturally. Its voice was a chorus of whispers, calling each of them by name. "We've been waiting." Image suggestion. a monstrous dark figure crawling out of a broken chain door. One by one, the shadows consumed the intruders. Their screams echoed through the empty halls before being swallowed by silence. The house stood still again, quiet, patient, waiting for the next visitor. Only the faint echo of voices remained, trapped inside, whispering endlessly in the dark. And so, the abandoned house claimed more souls, becoming hungrier with each return.